A lot of people in tech, including myself, are constantly talking about using AI coding assistants to build integrations, and people usually fall into one of two extremes where either they believe it's incredible at it and should be a large part of the development workflow, or AI is terrible at it and you're a fool for depending on it at all. But as usual, you should probably be skeptical of bold claims like these. Because if you ask an AI agent to build a straightforward sync against a well-documented API, it'll probably do a decent job. But if you ask it for something that has to run in production for a few hundred or a few thousand customers at scale, that's where the wheels start to fall off the bus. So the test for AI augmented coding isn't whether it can build the integration, because it often can in a more controlled environment. You'll realize that the real test is whether what it wrote can survive production. An AI agent will write an API client from scratch for a service that already has a perfectly good connector. It has no idea this thing has to run for 400 customers with 400 different sets of credentials, has no opinion at all about what happens when one of those tokens expires on a Saturday or Christmas Eve or something. But it's not being dumb about it. It doesn't know your component architecture. It doesn't know your auth conventions. It doesn't know how you deploy any of this stuff. So it does what any of us would do with no docs and a deadline, which is it makes something that's plausible. But plausible code is kind of worse than bad code sometimes. Bad code will be obvious and break something and you find it and delete it in 2 seconds. Plausible code is something you find out about a few weeks later as problems start to snowball. So it's a context problem. It's not a model problem. Waiting for a better model will not fix it. If you want an AI assistant that holds up on the production stuff, there are 3 things that it needs, and this is true no matter what platform you're on. First is code that it can read, like literally read. Visual builders may be great for a lot of things, but they're contained within a browser, and that makes them a black box to an AI agent. There's no file, nothing to inspect, nothing to run, nothing to diff. But if your integration is plain text files sitting in your repo, the assistant can open them, read them, and actually reason about how the whole thing works. Second is access to the platform, so it can look things up instead of guessing. What connectors already exist, what the types actually are, what deploying looks like. And that's what MCP is for. And third is judgment, which is the one that actually covers the production gap. Access isn't the same as knowing what good looks like. That's the stuff you figure out on your third integration instead of your first. And that's what skills are for. It's basically onboarding docs for the model. So in terms of how this all looks in the real world, I work at Prismatic and I like my job, so I'm going to use us an example of how you can actually apply these concepts. For the first one, which is Readable Code, our integrations are code-native TypeScript. They live in your editor and in your repo like any other code you write, making it easily accessible to AI agents. In terms of access, we ship an MCP dev server that plugs your assistant into our API, the SDK, and the whole component library so that it can actually make changes and influence things on your actual platform. And in terms of the judgment, that's Prismatic Skills, where we provide open source skills for AI agents, and they cover building integrations, building components, migrating off other platforms, and then of course running the thing once it's live. I will say, none of this means much if compiling and building the integration is where you stop. The thing still has to run for every customer, get monitored, survive API changes, survive auth changes, and so if you save a day writing it and lose 3 days operating it, you really didn't get any faster. You just moved the problem somewhere that you can't see it as well. So readable code, real access, actual judgment, whatever you're using for integrations should be able to do all 3. Links are below, and I will see you next time.